The Advanced Rhyming Dictionary, available now. It's one of those things that in an interview where I heard you talk about people were almost throwing your face, like, why would you write an advice? Aren't you afraid people are going to use it against you? You went, well, if they do, good, because that means everyone else is going to have to work harder to make rap better, and that's a good thing. And you use the masked magician as an analogy to this by saying, well, look, guys, we've been doing the same shit for decades. Isn't it time we all started doing something new? And even if it doesn't work, through the process of trying something new, we'll find what works. So let's talk about your book. Your book, I've ordered it. It hasn't arrived, so I will superimpose the plug here somewhere and say
I'm
it's
actually
great.
sending that out today, I think.
There,
I'm
it's
just
there.
one person, you know. Yeah, put it in there. You know, it's
not an excuse in this day and age. You're an author and an album producer now. There's no excuses for lack of resources or manpower. Come on now. But let's talk about that, because I think that's something that's, again, very near and dear to your heart. So again, what kind of persuaded you to take the plunge in trying to write a book, as opposed to pursuing other endeavors?
Well, I think when I very, very, very first started doing it years and years ago, back in like 2000, I don't know, let's say 13, I think maybe it was. It was sort of it started as a way of keeping track of what I had already rhymed. Not that you can't use the same rhymes in different battles and stuff, but I just I've always had an affinity for the rhymes themselves as well as the rap itself, but I just always have loved the rhymes themselves. So every time I did 4 lines in something and performed it live in a battle, really all that's remembered, if anything, is the punchline, the line as a whole. But what gets forgotten is the rhymes that set up that punchline. They become just sort of something that is a means to an end.
Yes.
Whereas actually I was taking them, I wanted to make them as good as possible, and looking back, they weren't that good then, but they were as good as I could make them, and I've continued trying to make all the rhymes as good as I can make them then. So I wanted to keep track of them so that I could sort of have those as a separate thing. And obviously I sort of noticed that some schemes would reoccur, and I'd use that one here and that one there, so I put them in a list. And then it started becoming, oh wait a minute, this could just become a bit of a compendium for these kind of things. And then in 2014 I met Jamie Blees, who's the co-author of the book, and he's just like a rhyme god, essentially. He's just can rhyme anything, doesn't matter how many syllables you give him or how tricky it is, or you go, oh, I've been trying on this for ages, and he'll just come up with one that's excellent, or come up with 10 that's excellent. And he's like a savant with it. It's very, very impressive. And so I first met him and just sort of became obsessed with him, and wanted to learn how to get to that level. And he kind of became a sort of like a rhyme mentor for me. And then after a while, sort of we were sort of catching up with each other, and we were both sort of like just became really good friends who would just rhyme all the time. And so he became interested in this topic as well, of making this compendium of 2 and 3 syllable rhymes in a very specific kind of cadence, which I won't bore you with now, but a certain type of multisyllabic rhyme. And we did the maths and saw how many different varieties of these rhymes there were, and figured that out. And I think there was something like 230 or something along those numbers. And so we're like, right, okay, so we need to come up with all these or a certain amount of examples for each scheme. And so we kind of thought, let's just do this for us, because it would be so cool to just have this as something that we have, and maybe publish 1 copy and just have it, or 2 copies and have 1 each. And that was kind of our goal with it for a while, was just to do it and make it and then have it and then show people it when we had it, because I just had them in, they were made in little moleskin notebooks, so that they were literally all handwritten. So I was just going around showing people at battle rap events or whatever, and just sort of like testing people. Okay, I've got this one. Can you guess what comes next? That kind of thing. And so I was like, right, okay, I'm gonna look in to see how much it is to publish one copy, and I think it was something like 500 quid or something, or like it was a lot of money, because basically there's so much work that goes into like making the prints and the plates themselves, and then after it's way cheaper. So making one copy is about the same as making 50 copies. It's
Right,
just
okay.
like you're just paying for the actual material after that. And so I was like, well, I'm not going to pay all that money just to get one copy. Might as well up it and see how much, how many copies we can make with it. And so yeah, that was like 2019 or 19. And then we found we went through a way of doing it through something called Unbound, where it's like
The crowdfunding.
crowdfunding
enterprise,
thing.
yeah.
And that we got about halfway through to the number they wanted, which was £14,000, which seemed like a lot, but they promised a lot of things. And then someone reached out, Karen Lee, who became the investor, put a much smaller amount up and was like, I can do it in this amount. And so yeah, we worked with her, and then we made it. And we always wanted it to be a book as opposed to an app or an online thing or anything like that, just because I think we just both wanted to publish a book and say we were publishers, rather than we have an app, which is something that it doesn't sound as impressive, basically. It's what I think. It's way cooler to say, and it makes you sound, I sometimes work with schools, and if I'm published author Shuffle T, as opposed to Shuffle T, he's got an app, none of you know it, it just sounds better and you're going to get more work. And so even though it was self-published, it's still published. And so yeah, we got it out, and yeah, it's done really well. We're really happy with how it's gone, and it's gone from strength to strength.
One of the things about the book element is, you kind of touched on it there, is that like you're kind of doing things your way. Like common sense would dictate, well, why would you go through the rigmarole of trying to produce a book when you can just produce it digitally and distribute it infinite amount of times?
Yeah.
Why would you want to produce it in a medium that I've started reading books. I say that it's such a ham-fisted word. I read books, but but it's one of those things where I think when you read a book, there's something tangible about the ownership of that book that makes what the contents of it sit with you and resonate a bit more.
Yeah.
Like again, Buddhism is something that I've started reading into, and if I'd have read it on an app, I'd have probably just gone, oh, that's cool. But because I'm reading it in a book, it somehow doesn't lose some of the mysticism and the spirituality that's supposed to be invoked by those words. So when you sit down to produce a book, is part of that you want the experience of the reader to be different than on an application as well?
Yes, in a sense. Like there was lots of different things we went through in terms of the production of it. Like, and really a lot of it is aesthetic in that. When I think about I was handwriting it, like I say, I was literally putting it into a little moleskin book, and I had an index at the back, and I could search like that. And I thought that I enjoyed that process so much that I was hoping that other people would go, this is actually quite a nice way to work, and it is better than just going Control F and like. You can obviously just open a document, Control F, search, and find what you're looking for, but that felt almost too easy. And there's this odd thing in rap. Like I say, there's a few different weird things that go on in the culture in terms of how people think about their work. One of them is that everyone's the best rapper from when they start, and they don't need to practice. Another one of those things is that the idea of even a hint of like outside or extraneous help is fucking illegal and should be come down with a ton of bricks.
The Heretic battle was the one that stands out for me because pretty much half of his second round where he's just talking almost explicitly about the fact that you
About the ghostwriting stuff.
Yeah, and I remember
Yeah.
kind of thinking like, but why is that such a heinous thing when considering that means he has to work harder to produce content not only for other people but for himself that he then might
Yeah.
come up against. Like there's something
It's
inherently disingenuous about it, I guess, is the criticism there.
You're a sellout, and I hope you're glad you've managed to reap what you've sown, because by bragging about having money, you just sold out your compassion for people that don't. By disguising an Oreo advert as a rap battle, you sold out your honesty to the fans that you're deceiving for dough, and by advertising as a ghostwriter, you sold out this battle scene as a whole. That's time.
it's an odd, it's a really oddly specific thing to it, because like I say, like you go to pop music and there's basically no expectation that people have written their own stuff. It's actually noteworthy if people have written and sung the song themselves. You go, oh, they wrote that as well. Oh, that's amazing. Or like if you know, like the main actor in a film, you don't expect them to have
Ad-libbed a
written.
line or
Yeah,
come up
exactly. Like
with a certain character trait. Yeah.
Exactly, it's more down to, it's, you know, there's a writer and there's a performer, but and even like, you know, historically, stand-up, there's some stand-ups who are famous and people know they have a team of writers, or sometimes they're not even involved in the writing thing at all. They've just got expert timing, and so they're the people who present it in that way. But rap is very specific, that people are very, very clear that you may not have any outside help at all. So you can't have someone going, oh, you know what would be nice there is this, and you go, oh, that is a good idea, thank you, my friend. They go, you're a cunt, and you fucking copied off him. And like that is how serious people get about it, you know. And the best thing you can do is just either avoid the situation altogether or just own it. If someone does go, he wrote it for you, you go, yeah, of course, yeah, that's fine. Like, you know, I've got a friend, Frankie Fraser, who's an excellent writer, an excellent battler, and before he came into actually battling himself, he was always present at these events, and he got known as the ghostwriter, and people said he ghostwrote for me. And the way that happened is because I had this bit of wordplay where I was like, I said like, I'll make you'll get tortured like those people who die in a Saw film.
Oh, the Harry Baker thing. Yeah.
And then it was something dinosaur film.
Yes.
And then it was like a dice and a saw. So it's a die and a saw. And then he said to me before I did it, he said, oh, you should say like something like crash in a tunnel, like when Diana saw film.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's great.
See, since you're acting like the big guy in a dinosaur film, you can share the fate of the guys that die in a Saw film. You're gambling with death, gotta die in a Saw, film it as the camera turns, you crash and burn like when Diana saw film.
And I put it in, and then someone said something like, love that line. I said, oh yeah, cheers, Frankie came up with that. And they were like, what? And I was like, yeah, Frankie, I was telling my friend about it, and he said you should do this, and I was like, yeah, that's a great idea, so I put it in, and then it became burn him! Yeah, it's like, and I was like, what are you up to? Like, to me, it just seems so silly that I don't even think it's worth going. You know, I think most people would have been like, no, he didn't write it. I changed my mind. No, I got it confused, or like, or doubled down. But like, it's so silly. Like the idea that you can't have even the slightest collaboration because it means, you know, it's just ridiculous. So the reason I brought that up is because of that idea. If we released the compendium of rhymes as an app, that feels more like cheating than having a book, which is more like reference.
You at least have to study, yeah.
If you type in something and you get an answer like that, and it comes up and you go, here are the rhymes, and you go, okay, well that seems like you're using something else, and that's a bit too, you know, blah blah blah. But if you buy a book that has an explanation of how these rhymes work, and like, you know, some sort of exercises in order to come up with stuff, they have the lists of stuff, but also space for you to add your own, and an index in which you have to sort of understand how the sounds work in order to even find the words. that you want to rhyme with, then that felt like more of a way of overcoming that obstacle of outside interference. You know, there's just something that feels more academic to it, as opposed to feeling like a cheat in writing, if that makes sense. And so
that makes perfect sense, yeah.
That's why I was quite keen to have the introduction that sort of explains exactly what those types of rhymes are, says, you know, gives examples, gives ways to think about it, and games to play in order to sort of like get your brain in that state. Because ultimately you want to make the book so that people read it and then no longer need it. They go, now I understand this rhyme to the full, and I might only use it as the occasional reference. I mean, I still use it. I still use my own, you know, book or our own book to do reference, but only because it's quicker than thinking up rhymes that I know I've already thought, because they're in there. So like if I come across a scheme, then I'll go, well, okay, I know that's in the book, let's have a quick look. Oh yeah, okay. But most of the time it's kind of already in my head anyway, but it's nice to have a reference to just go to and just sort of, you know, easily have a bit of a thing, and sometimes that helps you come up with further ideas. And that's the whole point. It is a rhyme dictionary in the classic traditional sense, and like there's, you know, been rhyming dictionaries for centuries, but it's more, I guess, meant to be like a prompting book, you know, a way of you learning these kind of things, learning the structure, and then going, okay, now I'm going to use this as a sort of way to, you know, if you're running out of ideas, you don't know what to say, then you open the book, you go to one page and you go, how can I link that rhyme to that rhyme? Okay, that's my challenge, I'll link these kind of ideas, and things like that. Writing exercises, which also has the premise of a rhyming dictionary. So that's the idea of it. And a lot of people have found it really helpful. And I know people who are not into rap necessarily that much, but still find it an interest, you know, an intrigue to read through, because it's just a side of language that a lot of people don't know is there. And one of the things that me and Blease, the co-writer, always say is that, you know, language itself is like a puzzle that can be fit in a million different correlations. You know, it's not just one size fits like that, it's also the same two sides fit like that and like that. Like puns is a puzzle, and you know, rhyme is a puzzle, and meter is a puzzle, and timbre is a puzzle, and there's all these different puzzles, and some of them are there right before your eyes, but you just don't know they're there. And multisyllabic rhymes, I think, is one of them. And so to learn about them, I think, even as a non-rapper or even as a non-rhymer, is still quite an interesting side if you're into language, which sort of everyone is, aren't they?
Well, far be it for me to, how dare I milk bars of this topic. I couldn't find a topic, unfortunately. Sorry, otherwise
They're
I would
not
have had
very
both.
available.
Because they sucked. I mean, who chooses topic over a Boost or a Kit Kat these days? Anywho, are you proud of the book and the album? I mean, in terms of from concept to completion, in terms of the way that they were sort of the journey you went on to produce them. Are you proud of those accomplishments and achievements?
I'm really proud of them, and I'm really proud of the whole pictures of them. So I'm proud of the book, and I'm proud of me and Jamie and the friendship that we have, and how that became more solidified through the book. So I'm proud of that whole thing, and I'm proud that we finally got to it and did it. I'm proud of what it is. I'm proud that it's published, and I'm proud that it's sold. I think we've sold about 2,000 copies, which I'm proud of, and I'm proud that we've done that with no advertisement. You know, it's just been through social media, and the
occasional battle rap as well.
The occasional battle rap, which does help, and I'm proud of the album. I'm proud of how it started. I'm proud of, you know, the friendship with Lloyd that I've you know, had through that, and how that's become stronger. And I'm proud that that's done quite. I think we've had 35,000 downloads on that, and that's only been 4 months as of basically today. So I'm super proud of those. And like, you know, when you're doing things like this, all you've got is the metrics, and all you've got is the responses. And so I'm worried every time I put something out. I'm worried every time I put a battle out that people are going to say, this is the one where I've lost interest, or this is the thing that, you know, or when we put the book out, I was afraid that people were going to go, I like the battles, but this is not, or same with the music. And so I'm proud that I'm very proud of them, and I'm proud of the people involved in them all the way through. It's been really fun, and you know, they're not mega, and they probably never will be, but I really don't mind that. What I'm happy with is that within the world that I operate, they've been popular, and I don't mind if they never go beyond that, because I've impacted the people who are immediately around me, and that's all I can really ask for. That's all we can really ask for.
If the state of culture is anything to give us a guide into the future, Shuffle, is that in 20 years, when people have had enough time to kind of digest it, almost forget about it, and then some dipshit rediscovers it and goes, do you know what? If I just tell everyone that I've always been into this, I'm going to seem really cool. Then your album's going to hit, and it's going to be remixed by about 5 different dubstep producers within the year, and Ed Sheeran and Elton John are going to cover it. But I jest, but it is that thing of like, again, that's why I found it so refreshing to listen to interviews with you with regards to how you approach what you do, because I think there's a pressure these days to always be contemporary. There's a pressure to, right, what's literally everyone else doing? You need to do that too, and you just need to put a slightly different twist on it in order to then be popular. But at that point, you know, what satisfaction can an artist derive from it? And it's always a two-way street. If there's no reward to what you produce, you're not going to do it. But if there's nothing to produce and it's just reward, how much can you really derive enjoyment from? And I hope you don't mind. You're asking whether or not you're proud, because I, like you, when I started YouTube, I thought it'd be easy, to be honest with you. Just set up a phone, record. I had my buddy Ryan, who's also a massive battle rap fan. He's the one who introduced you to me, and he's using his fucking shit that I'm talking to you, by the way. And sort of we just talked, and you listen to it back. It's, I think, 6 years later now I started YouTube, and I go, fucking hell, what was I doing putting this on a platform for some poor bastard to waste an hour? I've robbed an hour of their life from them, and they're never getting that back. That's a cure for cancer that's gone missing because of the content that I produced.